What a beautiful ball. Now it's Cristiano Ronaldo with a chance maybe to seal it, and he has taken it. Lahm in all kinds of space. Lahm, Muller through Muller. Could be embarrassing. It's three. Tony Kroos. Olivier Giroud. Barkley's found Klein with a speedy burst, and that's terrific from Vardy. Oh, what a goal by Jamie Vardy.
Hello and welcome to #TFHP Euros. It's the Football Hipsters podcast. And before we get underway, I'd just like to play you this.
Dinked in towards Robson. Carnu. Taylor's available. What a turn! What a goal!
Well, that was some audio from tonight's UK coverage of the Wales and Belgium match. You might have guessed by which clip I chose to play how the result went. And if you've been living under a rock, you might not know. So I shall introduce my panellists and we'll get talking about it. I'm your host, Kris, of course. I've got tonight with me Belgium's follower, Drew. So this is going to be interesting. And also the man who was tasked with being our UK correspondent for this tournament. And I'm sure at the start he thought, oh, God, really? But I'm sure he's loving it now. And that man is Ross. Good evening to you both.
Evening.
Right. Let's get straight into it then, shall we? Wales are through. Incredible. They are semi-finalists of the European Championships after a 3-1 victory over Belgium. Drew, I apologise, but I can't not start with Ross on this one.
Go ahead.
Ross, before we sort of drill down into the game itself, this is some achievement, isn't it?
Yeah, this is. It clearly it's the story of the tournament. Even if Iceland beat France in the coming games, I think this tops everything. You might have said Wales would go through second in the group. You might have even said they could cause an upset here or there, but the idea that they've now come through into the semi-final of the European Championships, they made Belgium, who are still a very good team, they've got their problems, but they're a very good team, made them look bang average at some points during that game. It's just incredible, and especially when you consider some of the talent that's actually in that Welsh team. Some players you normally wouldn't think would be able to get you anywhere in an international tournament, yet here they are, semi-finals against Portugal, with, in my opinion, a very good chance of making it all the way through. So it's just the most incredible story.
It really, really is. And again, Drew, your thoughts? I mean, I know obviously you were following Belgium and would have had sort of the eye on them specifically, but you can't take away just how amazing achievement this is for Wales, can you?
No, I mean, I can't. I don't want to make this into a Belgium blew it. Wales didn't deserve it. That's not the case. I think if you look at the course of the match, I think Wales absolutely deserved the success, but Belgium almost kind of made it a little more easy for them. And I mean, we'll come into that later, I'm sure. But this is not. I mean, this goes back to how Belgium played against Italy. They lacked movement in the final third. They lacked any really creative nonsense at all. Just very static. It was so poor. It's like they reverted right back to not learning any lessons from the first match. So, but full credit to Wales. They keep proving to people that, a Leicester City story in a Euro version could easily happen. We have in Wales and now Iceland two teams who work hard, despite the quote unquote lack of quality that other teams have. But, that hard work is trumping quality right now. And you have to ask yourself, can they pull off a bigger upset? But, so yeah.
It's just a most magnificent achievement given the levels of talent. I mean, you look at that Belgian side. Again, we'll touch on it and we'll do our best we can to go through all the incidents. So we'll start with the game itself then. And Drew, I'll stick with you for a minute because it all started well for Belgium, didn't it? I mean, they set up in a 4-2-3-1. They looked fluid, they looked sharp, quick, and they, I think, in fairness, went ahead through a stunning strike and very much sort of in their. They were on top, weren't they? They were the better side at this point, and then Raja Nainggolan hit that absolute screamer, and all seemed to be going well. So, were you happy at that point with Belgium's performance?
I think up to that point, you have to say yes. The goal didn't come from a type of play that you would really put down to how Belgium were playing in regards to build up possession and trying to get into the box. But Wales are always going to be comfortable sitting back behind the ball with 8, 9, 10 defenders sometimes. And sometimes, coaches will say this all the time. If you see a team defending deep, sometimes you take that shot from outside the box, and you never know what happens. And Ryan Golan did that, and he's shown previously in the tournament that he can do that already. So he said, "Why not have a go?" He blaze it into the back of the net, and it's a good start. But this is where this comes into the Belgian mentality that we've talked about before. Now they went 1-0 up inside the first 15 minutes, and then it's almost like they took their foot off the gas because they got the early goal, and I think that's where you have to question their mentality. It's almost that bit of, you saw it in England as well, didn't you? In their game, now we're comfortable. We're better than them on paper. We're better than them quality-wise. So now we can relax almost. And if you allow a hard-working team to get back into the match, and then and Wales relied on 2 or 3 players in particular to really drive them on. Neil Taylor's been excellent at left back. Aaron Ramsey, Gareth Bale. Those 3 really sort of grab momentum back about 10, 15 minutes later, and then Wales didn't let momentum go for the rest of the match. And I think that's where you have to question Wilmots as a manager, and also the players. They lack that drive to build on something that they started so well. If you were to ask anybody if Belgium go up in the first 15 minutes, you think they'd go through, I think 90% of people would say yes. But I think again, this is down to the players. Just they didn't want to do enough to build on the start that they had, and I think Belgium lost that match once they didn't find the second goal before the 25-minute mark, because Wales has that never say die attitude that so many teams in the tournament lack. And I think you can't rule it out. And I think Wales proved that you can't.
So very, very well summed up there, and very fair as well. And Ross, at that point in time, as I was saying to Drew there, I mean, they were cruising. I felt Belgium, they were comfortably on top, and then for some reason or another, they got in front, and it was almost like they sort of thought, well, this is Wales. They're not going to have a lot to come back, and they kind of sank deeper. I wouldn't say they defended, but they certainly took their foot off the gas. And boy, did Wales punish them with the equaliser from Ashley Williams' header, a man I criticised openly by staying on the pitch with his shoulder injury, but he's made us strong stuff, and that was a super header for the equaliser.
Yeah, and it was exactly what Wales needed, because when you go a goal down to a team like Belgium in the quarterfinals of the European Championships, when you're a team like Wales, there could always be the tendency to kind of go, oh God, this is going to be a real uphill struggle now. But, the set pieces, I love a good set piece because it can open up a game. It's always a good chance to fully keep control of the ball, know exactly where it's going, put it on someone's head, cause little problems. And they did it to perfection with that corner. I mean, admittedly, the first one was pretty poor, but the second corner that they actually put in was just absolutely perfect, and a great way to open the game back up. On the point of Belgium sitting deep, though, and I'd like to get Drew's opinion on this in a minute, but for me, it seemed like possibly that Belgium scored a little bit too early, but I also think that the reason they sat back is a reason that I'm sure Drew would love to delve deeper into, which is the back line of Belgium today. Because in the build-up to this game, Drew has been talking on our WhatsApp group about the injuries they've now got in the back line, the suspensions, the way they'd have to piece this back line together again. It felt almost like to me that when Belgium went 1-0 up, it was almost like, right, this back line isn't strong enough to hold up against Wales for the rest of this game. We need to help them out. And that's kind of what it felt like to me, like they were sitting a bit deeper just to kind of give them a bit more shelter and shield them a bit more. And it seemed to be working okay up until the Neil Taylor chance, which Courtois has done incredibly well to save. And then, of course, the corner. And then Belgium had to come back out again, and then Wales were able to exploit the spaces.
I think it's certainly a good time to bring in Drew on that, because Drew, exactly what Ross said. You've been saying this. I mean, what was your thoughts on why Belgium sat that little bit deeper after the goal? I mean, was it almost? Could you even say it was nerves? I mean, they haven't been in this position before.
I don't think Ross is incorrect. I think he's spot on. But for me, I question 2 things. Well, actually, only one thing. We look at the defense, how Wilmots set it up. So Jordan Lukaku came in at left back. Denayer had to come in for the suspended Vermaelen, and then you had Alderweireld and Meunier in their usual spots. For me, but he put Alderweireld on the right side of the center backs. For me, I think a simple switch of if you put Alderweireld on the left side of the center backs and put a more experienced head next to Lukaku to keep him sort of grounded so he can settle in a little bit better, instead of having the 2 inexperienced defenders next to each other on the same side of that defense. And a lot of the Welsh chances came from that side of the defense all match long. I think just that one key switch could have made a massive difference. And honestly, this is also an instance where I feel like I haven't done an all tournament, but I've kind of held my breath to see how it turned out in this match. But this is why I question having Eden Hazard as captain. And I've questioned it pretty much since it happened. And I know that, Company would be captain if he was fit, but why Hazard? There's been no point in this tournament where Hazard has vocally led his team. When he got frustrated today, when Belgium was struggling to create chances, he sort of wanted to do everything himself. Hazard's that kind of player, but he's not a leader. For me, I think this is where someone else had to step up, but no one else stepped up as well. And I think that's the other problem. I think Company is the only leader in that team. And even though Alderweireld is experienced, even though Courtois, who's younger, is experienced, Nainggoal and Witsel also experienced, but none of them really tried to help settle nerves. Everyone just got more frustrated as the match progressed, and you saw it where every time Welsh player was free in the box on a set piece or making a run in, Nainggoal would just yell at the defense instead of trying to. There's a difference between yelling and communicating what needs to be improved, and that's not what happened. So I think Belgium, the communication has always been their issue, and we've all spoke about it, especially pre-tournament, that Belgium, if they don't do well, or if they don't at least make a deeper run in the quarterfinals, they'll shoot themselves in their own foot because of it. And I think that's what happened here. I think the communication breakdown has been well documented in the team, and I think no one knew what to do, so everyone just sort of cowered back, sat deeper, like Ross said, and like you guys pointed out, where they wanted to protect Lukaku and Denayer. But sitting back deeper is one thing, but then no one communicated who needs to mark who's picking up which runner. Courtois wasn't vocal enough in the box on set pieces, and the marking on set pieces was so poor. And even on Sam Vok's goal, he was able to make a run in between Denayer and Alderweireld, and then neither of them did well enough to close them down. So you saw that all match long from them, where it's such a big breakdown in everything from top to bottom, especially communication. I think it really reared its ugly head today, and it shot them in the foot for sure.
I have to admit, despite everything that Drew was saying during the week about the defensive issues, I was still like, yeah, but it's Belgium. They'll have someone there. And then when I saw the team sheets today, it just didn't seem real how inexperienced that back line was in the end. And as soon as you saw it, it was like, right, there are going to be some goals here, and there's going to be players that can take advantage of this.
I thought Lukaku in particular at the back struggled, and I think Denayer strikes me as I don't know if Drew will agree with this or not, but strikes me as an ideal player for Pep Guardiola to have at Manchester City to develop, but he also strikes me as a player who's nowhere near ready for this level right now. I think he's, you can see there's a player in there, and you can see there's an athlete there, and I think under the right coaching he'll be fine. But tonight, I mean, it was too. Ironically, the two things the experts said would undo Belgium potentially were exactly those two things: the missing two defenders, Vermaelen and Vertonghen. So. Yeah, tough.
Well, I don't. If you don't mind me jumping in real fast, I don't think that's the only thing. And Kris, I know you're gonna love me for this. This isn't the only thing that shot Belgium in the foot. Lukaku was wasteful with his header. He had that clear-cut chance that he scuffed, and then you had Fellaini had his chance. And if the difference, I think the difference on the match is if Lukaku scores that header when it's 1-1, it's a different match. Likewise, when Fellaini has that chance, if he scores that header, it might be a different match. But you look at Wales was just that much better, making something of the chances they had. Belgium, again, they've been wasteful previously in the tournament. They were wasteful against Italy in the 2-0 loss. They were wasteful against, they converted their chances well against Sweden, but they were kind of wasteful against Northern Ireland, Ireland rather. And then they weren't all that clinical against the Hungarians either. And I think that's one of the bigger issues. I think pre-match I said this was going to end 2-1 Belgium. But it doesn't mean I didn't think Wales going to get chances either. But I feel like for a team that's up to this point had the most goals in the tournament, I think they had 8 coming into the match, I think. But the amount of chances they created, also up to this point in the tournament, they created either the first or second most chances in the tournaments. But you just have to wonder, they didn't have that sort of X-factor goal scorer. I know that you personally, Kris, you've said so much that you don't rate Lukaku as highly as others because of he's not that great technically, but also he is wasteful on chances. I think that also was a big key factor. But going back to the defense, I don't know. It's for me, Denayer is a talented center back, but he is young. He's only 20, and I think he's the type of center back where he can't work it out on his own. We've seen younger center backs before, same age or a little bit younger, who they can progress on their own. They don't need guidance. But Denayer is the type that needs someone to tell him what to do. I think if you saw Denayer next to Company, I think you would have seen a different player, because Company is that vocal center back who'll try to get his best to get the maximum of the players around him. Alderweireld is not that type. So and Courtois not that kind of keeper either. So if you had a different goalie behind Denayer, you might, or a different center back, you might see someone a bit of a different defender. But and then Denayer and Lukaku aren't they're nervous. They don't communicate with each other on multiple occasions. So it's just everything just broke down for them. But I don't think you can't just blame the defense. Belgium again had their chances when they did get them and didn't convert them again. So.
Yeah, cost them absolutely, and yeah, I agree. I mean, on Lukaku, as I say, a lot of people have been quite critical of me for saying that I don't hold him in such high regard. We do have to remember he is a young player, still relatively young anyway, and I think he'll get better. But I just think talk of him being worth 65-70 million pound was well, to be honest, ridiculous. Just because of
very softly in the second half as well, didn't he? I can't
remember if
it was 2-1 or 3-1 at that point, but he was almost clear through and he went down. It's, what are you doing, man? Stay up and go for it.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a foul, but for a guy of his size, you just shrug that off and you go again. And I think he's a talent massively, but I don't think he's anywhere near the player that some maybe thought he was going to be. But speaking of a player who probably many people wouldn't have imagined to score a goal like he did, Ross, that Hal Robson-Kanu goal that we played in the intro, Robbie Savage stole my thunder, which upsets me slightly because that just makes me sound too Bob. But he said if Messi does that, everyone sits up and takes notice, and I said the exact thing as he did it. It was just the most fantastic piece of skill in what was a seriously pressured situation. What a goal! Yeah,
it was amazing. It took 3 Belgium defenders with him as well. It was like he just swept them aside like he was on Tinder or something, just all of them off to the left-hand side. It was a fantastic turn. He's a free agent now as well, Hal Robson-Kanu. So that's probably going to have earned him a couple more £1,000 in wages. I mean, you can't speak highly enough of that kind of finish in that kind of situation. Such high pressure, so much on the line. If he doesn't put that in, it could change the game. But to be so cool, to be so calm, to take 3 defenders out with a turn, to still be in complete control when you turned around, you've got your eyes on the goal, still got enough sense to steady himself, shape his body right, make sure it goes in the right-hand corner, or the left-hand corner, I should say. It's just the most fantastic finish in that situation. So you really, really can't speak high enough of it.
Super goal. And Drew, were you at this point, obviously at 2-1, all the emphasis was on Belgium again to get back in the game and push. Did you feel they did enough before the Vokes had obviously ended the game? Do you really feel like they did enough? I mean, Batshuayi came on, they pushed sort of Fellaini into a further forward role, and it seemed to be a little bit of the old chuck the ball in the box and see what happens rather than any carefully thought out plan, because they didn't utilise Hazard or De Bruyne in that last 15 minutes or so, did they?
Yeah, but the issue is that they weren't allowing themselves to utilize Hazard or De Bruyne, and this is where I feel like I understand the Fellaini substitution. I'm not a fan of Fellaini whatsoever, but he's the only one in that team available because you're missing the likes of Kompany and Vertonghen and then like so. Fellaini's the only one who is actually very, very good at defending set pieces. So when Fellaini came in, that they sort of snuffed out that opportunity. I feel like that change made sense. But then some of the other changes didn't make sense. If you bring in Fellaini, then you have Fellaini, Witsel, and Nainggolan all in the team. None of them are center midfielders who can take the ball and run out of the defense and make something happen. So if you're bringing Fellaini out to shore up your ability to defend set pieces, for me, Witsel or Nainggolan, probably Witsel because I think Nainggolan had a better game. You take out Axel Witsel and you put in someone like a Moussa Dembele who is a center midfielder, who is very comfortable on the ball, who can take the ball and run and create something. I think Belgium lacked that. So then when they didn't make a change like that early enough, you had De Bruyne and Hazard isolated on the flanks like we saw against in the Italy match, and not really able to do anything because whenever Hazard or De Bruyne would get the ball, you'd have 5, 6, 7 Welsh defenders already back by the time they get into that final third, and then Lukaku is isolated against 3 center backs. So again, they didn't do anything to draw the Welsh defenders out of their compact defense. No one took the ball in the middle and tried to run at anybody, and it was key because Wales had 2 or 3 defenders on yellow cards and very, very early. So if this comes again with lack of communication and tactical understanding, or maybe even instruction from the sideline, where if you see someone's on a yellow early in the game, you target that player for the rest of the match because that yellow's taken him out of ability to truly defend the situation. He can no longer make that key foul to break up play that may be yellow if he wasn't already on one. So these little things that Belgium really failed to do enough of. And then I think Dries Mertens came a little too late. Also, I think he should have started in general, but that's another issue. But again, these are all things that make you really question if Mark Wilmots is really putting too much faith in this place to say, you know what, you guys have all the ability to just go out and do what you like. Or do Belgium need a manager who is a little bit more tactically astute, who can change things up quickly when needed on the fly? We've seen other managers in world football do things like that, not first substitutions, but just Belgium, they only really played one way today. They didn't really show enough to be effective on the counter when Wales wrestled possession away. Belgium still struggled to break things down and move forward quickly. When they would get the ball, they'd just slow, build up, methodical again. They didn't really have people to pick their head up and go. And usually you look at Hazard doing that, but when Hazard did it, his decision making was poor. He would, there was plenty of instances where De Bruyne or Lukaku were making runs, and he just sort of kept dribbling, taking the ball against 3, 4, 5, 6 players, but then not making that final killer pass where you needed it. So it's just, it all broke down. I think, again, you have to question their mentality, because I think through their frustration, they then continuously made poor decisions instead of maybe channeling that frustration in the right way.
Again, very, very well summed up. And I think I certainly think it's a potentially the end of the road for Wilmots, who had arguably, the number one ranked side in the world and arguably one of the, if not the best squad in the tournament. So I think that maybe his tenure could come to an end. But Ross, just turning it back to Wales again, the sour point of the night is 3 suspensions. I think I'm right saying James Chester, Kris Gunter and Aaron Ramsey will all miss the semi-final now after some maybe a couple of harsh bookings. Certainly one of them was anyway. Is that going to be... I mean, obviously it's going to affect them, particularly Ramsey and particularly Chester, in my opinion. But and Gunter, in my opinion. But have they got enough to see these suspensions out and continue on this run? I mean, we'll touch on who they play, but what do you think with these suspensions now?
It's tricky because Ramsey you can swap out. It's a big loss, Aaron Ramsey, but you can take him out. You can put Hal Robson-Kanu further back. You maybe even put Gareth Bale a little bit further back, and then you bring in Sam Vokes, and you can kind of mop up. You do lose a big member of that squad, but you can still mop that up. Gunter, the best I can think of off the top of my head is either Dave Edwards or Jazz Richards, and neither of them are on Gunter's level. I'm a huge fan of Kris Gunter, have been for a little while. He's a very important player for Reading in the Championship. I don't know if he's going to be there much longer after these tournaments, but he's a bigger loss. I think it's Ben Davis that's actually suspended in the back line. I don't remember if it's Chester or not, but I know Ben Davis.
It is Ben Davis.
Yes,
Ben Davis.
You may well be right. I apologise. Yeah, I knew it was one of the two.
Yeah,
Took a gamble.
I don't know if it's Chester or not, but Ben Davis, I remember going out, and I can't see a defender on that bench that I'd immediately look at and go, yeah, he can come in and he can do the same job. So it's going to be tough, but at the same time, if you can't get yourself up for a semi-final against Portugal in the European Championships, then when can you? Whoever comes in is going to want to play there. He's going to want to show that he can do the job. He's going to want to make sure he helps Wales get through to the final. No one is going to want to be the one that makes the mistake that lets Portugal through and ends Wales' dream. So it is a problem, but I still think with the circumstances you're in now, it could very well be mitigated simply because there's so much on the line. Players are going to want this so much more. So it will be a loss, but I still think Wales can mop it up.
Agreed. And of course, bear in mind that, as we say there, as you mentioned, they will play Portugal in that semi-final. And given the fact that Portugal are essentially playing with 2 wingers up front as forwards, might even play into Wales's hands. I mean, okay, granted, one of them is arguably one of the best players in the world in Cristiano Ronaldo. But for me, a half-fit, lethargic and slightly boisterous Cristiano Ronaldo, I would imagine one Ashley Williams is quite looking forward to sticking him up in the air a few times, because I don't see. I think if Wales were playing a team with an out-and-out centre forward, it could be a harder job. But with those two, I'm not so sure it'll be that much of an issue. But we'll see. Drew, just sticking with Wales again for a minute. I mean, you only have to look at social media tonight. I mean, there's so many, even English fans, who'd have said this pre-tournament, who are really getting behind Wales now. I think the Irish are behind them. It's almost like a nation is getting behind, and they are certainly becoming one of the teams that all the other teams that have gone out are now getting behind. How do you see that semi-final? I mean, could we have a situation where they could go all the way to the final? Because Portugal are not going to take them lightly after seeing these performances.
I think you can, but I don't know. I'd almost say that I'd be shocked if Wales didn't beat Portugal. And the only reason why is Portugal, for all their quality, the quality gap between the two teams it is pretty drastic, the same way it was drastic today. But the problem is Portugal have a much better supporting cast than they have previous seasons, but they're still overly reliant on Ronaldo. And I don't know if that's because that's down to the manager or if it's down to the players just deferring to Ronaldo because it's Ronaldo. Whatever the reason is, when you look at Portugal play, even though they have quality past him, that quality doesn't turn up. And when you saw what happened with Belgium today, when the quality doesn't turn up, Wales can beat you. Just because they'll work harder than you do, and that's that age-old adage where if hard work trumps ability when ability doesn't want to work hard, and I think that's been Wales' MO this entire tournament, and it keeps proving time and time again that you can't underestimate the fact that they'll just work their socks off when you probably won't. That said, I don't know if Portugal necessarily need a center forward to beat Wales. The one thing Portugal will do more than anybody in this tournament, bar maybe Spain or Italy, is they'll look to get players booked, and then they'll intentionally target those players to try to get them sent off. We see Pepe do it all the time. Ronaldo and any those types of players will try to get you into foul trouble because that plays into their advantage. They do like the ball at their feet. They like to run at you, and then all of a sudden, if you take your ability to try and put in a tackle, then Ronaldo has you, or Nani has you. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Chris Coleman, I think, has a different opponent on his hands than he's probably seen up to this point. But I think you could see Wales in the final. I mean, I despise Ronaldo and Portugal, so I'd rather them go. But we'll see how they take it. But I don't think you can't rule it out by any stretch of the imagination at this point for sure.
No, I agree. And one thing's for sure is that I think somebody's going to have a hell of a job trying to calm down Robbie Savage tonight after that result. Those of you who don't live in the UK, it's well worth listening to his sort of shouts and noises after the final whistle went. It was quite something. Even if you don't like him, it was hard not to be touched by that. Ross, just the final thing on this game tonight, then, before we touch on what's ahead tomorrow. The sort of togetherness of this Welsh side. I mean, you've seen that they do this thing where they do the heart shape. There's lots of things going around on Twitter tonight where they all get into a heart shape and a huddle, and there really is a strong bond. Do you think Chris Coleman deserves an awful lot of credit for what he's done, not just in what he's done with this team, but when you think back to what happened with Gary Speed, it's hard to sort of overlook that, and you wonder if that incident has really bonded this group. But Coleman was a game away from walking out of the job or being sacked. What he's done now, it is incredible, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I don't think you can overstate the sheer magnitude of the job that he's done with a team that, aside from Gareth Bale, are not full of the best quality players in the world. You've also got Aaron Ramsey in there as well, but they're still not the greatest bunch. If you take them as individuals, there's still areas of their game they need to improve, they can get better, etc. Then you compare them to an England squad that's got so many players that are already at their peak, or at least they were when Chris Coleman walked into the job. And a few years later, Wales are the ones heading into a semi-final of the European Championships. So much emotion behind them. It's a fantastic job, really, really is. And especially from a manager that like Chris Coleman, who, for as long as I can remember, was in the Championship, or at least that was the grade barrier that I thought that he was in. He was a Championship-level manager or bottom-level Premier League manager. And he's taken this national team and he's done some incredible things with them. So can't speak high enough of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And somewhere, I'm sure, upstairs, Mr. Speed is looking down and nodding approvingly, and rightfully so. Right, let's just quickly have a look ahead to tomorrow. And trust me, we could have talked about that game for hours, but nevertheless, we're on a time limit here, so we'll look at tomorrow. And Drew, I'll start with you for obvious reasons. The Germans are back in action as they face John's Italy. I believe you two are gonna lock horns tomorrow night in the podcast. That will be interesting. But how do you see this? Because this is a real sort of clash of the Titans, and it's really hard to call. So where are you on sort of looking ahead to this game? Where do you stand?
I don't know. Germany still haven't been at their killer best that we've seen from them in previous international tournaments, and I think Italy, bar the Ireland result where they had nothing to play for, I think Italy have been one of the best, if not the best teams at the tournament, especially from a defensive standpoint. And we do see that Germany oftentimes do struggle to break down a really deep, organized defense. And when you have an Italian side who do have those three Juve center backs, and with arguably the best goalkeeper in the world who also plays for Juve, you have that defensive continuity and communication at the back. I think Germany may struggle. Hopefully, Germany do stay with Mario Gomez up front. I think if Götze starts in that false nine, I think it's going to be a really tough day at the office. But Germany have to get Italy out of their comfort level. I think Germany have to almost allow Italy more of the ball. I know Germany like to press high and regain possession and then possess the ball and build up, but if they sit back just a little deeper and try to just get Italy out of their shape at the back and let Italy push forward just a little bit, I think Germany might be able to shake things up, but they have to play more than one way of football. I think if they're going to be Italy, I think if they're just going to try to possess their way through, I think Italy will be comfortable. And Italy might not score, but Italy will always take their chances to hold the line and maybe nick it through a penalty shootout. But depending on how Conte goes, depending on who he starts, Italy could hit Germany on the break, and they've seen that when Jonas Hector and Joshua Kimmich push on forward, they are susceptible to being hit on the counter. So Germany just have to be smart at the back. They have to be more than just one route of football going forward, and they'll be okay. But if they're playing Italy's hands, I think Italy will be comfortable, and I think John would agree on that.
Yeah, I think you are absolutely right. And Ross, for you, defensive masterclass or Germany kick into gear and wipe the floor with the Italians? Which way do you think it goes?
I think you could toss a coin and get this right, because Germany could turn up any day they like and blow any team out of the water. I personally feel like it's going to be Italy, but if it is, it's not going to be by any more than one. It could even go all the way to the penalties. But then again, if Germany can turn up, then it could be 2 or 3 for Germany. I don't see this being a game that you can call very easily beforehand. It could go either way depending on which team is just better on the day, because their individual qualities could just cancel each other out in so many different ways. So very, very difficult to call. For me now, it's Italy, but honestly, if that ends 4-0 Germany, I won't feel embarrassed for saying Italy, because that's just the way this game is shaping up.
I think it should be decent. I must admit, I'm sorry, Drew. I'm slightly with Italy as well, but we shall see. It could be one that might go all the way distance-wise. We shall see. Right, before we wrap up another episode of the pod, let's just get your hipsters' choices of the day or of the game, depending on which way you look at it. I think I might know which team you might pick from, but let's start with you, Drew. A player that really caught your eye and your reasons for that tonight.
Bias aside, I think it's got to be Aaron Ramsey. He's the first player to register 2 assists in one match at Euros, but despite that, you see a different Ramsey for Wales than you do for Arsenal, and some of the pundits touched on this. With Wales, he has much more creative freedom. He's just behind the striker, so he has room to run into. He's not duty bound by the task of a center midfielder. This is where you see how creative Ramsey actually is. His range of passing, his understanding of space in front of him. I think it was and even he even tracked back. He even put in a tackle. He had that engine that he's always praised for having. You saw it today, and I think that his is the key performance for me.
Yeah, I can completely concur with that. And Ross, have you got the same or somebody different?
I don't know how many clean sweeps we've had on the Football's Choice so far, but yeah, I'm Ramsey as well. He was absolutely fantastic today. He looked a completely different player to the one I see at Arsenal whenever I do get to watch them during the Premier League season. So yeah, he's absolutely fantastic. He's going to be a big loss in the next game, but today he put in more than his fair share.
Totally with you. I said the same pre-pod recording. Not that I was trying to influence you guys, of course, but no, I thought the same. And biases aside, and a little word for Ashley Williams, I suppose, on the side, because as I say, I'm sure he went home after my criticism of him staying on the pitch and was very angry at my comments, because I know he listens. Fair play to him for gutting it out and being essentially the catalyst for the comeback. So well done to Wales, magnificent achievement, and yeah, that's another one that you could chalk up to being one of those games that I think in 20, 30 years' time, people will look back at this championships and go, that was probably, for me anyway, the game of the tournament. Certainly has been so far, in a tournament that's been a bit bitty from time to time. I think that game will certainly live long in the memory. So congratulations to Wales. Before we go, we will just let you know, obviously, as I said before, myself and Drew and John will be back tomorrow to go through what happened between the Italians and the Germans. As I say, we know that the first semi-final will be Wales and Portugal, so that's something to look forward to. And of course, France complete the quarter-final lineups against Iceland on Sunday, which we will be across. Fantasy football is still ongoing, so do check up your points for tonight. I'm sure there'll be a lot of unhappy people with Belgium players in their sides tonight, me included, so do check up on that. As usual, if you don't already, just give us a follow at the FH podcast, and you can find us on YouTube, Stitcher, our website, of course, and iTunes. It's back alive, it's working well, and once again, thanks to Kat for that. Just before we leave, I just want to bit rare for me to go into business myself here, but I do just want to give a very brief thank you. I'm not going to mention why, but I'm sure he'll know why. We've got a listener who goes by the name of Rich Adams. I just want to say a massive thank you to him from a personal perspective. He'll understand why. Right. Thank you very much then to both of my colleagues for joining me tonight. So thank you very much to Drew, and look after yourself in the storms that you've got coming your way tonight.
No problem. Thank you.
And thank you very much to Ross. And Ross, I will speak to you again on Sunday, I believe.
Shall indeed. Pleasure as ever.
Good stuff. Well, that has been the Football Hipsters' second quarter-finals. Keep it locked to this station, as the cool kids say. But keep your satchel clean and your boat stoked, and we'll speak to you after the game tomorrow night.
A match winner. Is this the moment? It is. Divock Origi. There and now Pillar, and they now have the breakthrough. Bale. It's a great effort.